Greetings, everyone. This is Gerard, aka Double OG, Mr. Vegas, son representing the purple one, the Prince of Wannabes, and editor of Filipino Soul Magazine, aka SGIB Magazine. It stands for Soldiers Down Intention. Believe that, because everyone should be soldier for something, a dream, a goal, an idea, a training, doing something. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and push that bell. Also on activities production floors by Gerard, best in freelance publicity, photography, if I hadn't said it already, and owner of the Borough Corporation, BERYL. That's stands for Be Ever Remember Your Love, the not-for-profit entity of me. You know, I was compelled this morning to do this recording, mostly because, I was watching the news, and Helen's here. I call her stupid. Come here, stupid. It's funny. My dog I had in Las Vegas, I called her bug-eyed bitch because she was a chihuahua. You see on my Facebook, she had these big bug eyes, so I called her bug-eyed bitch. And this one I called stupid because sometimes it does the most stupidest things. And she's not as big as I think as a husky we have grown accustomed to be. But she's my baby. When I sat around in the middle of the litter, I knew I wouldn't want to have blue eyes, and you can't tell what color their eyes are when they're first born. So I sat kind of like on the edge of the litter, and she called over to me, and I said, "Oh no, wouldn't you know it? The smallest one will come to me." So she came, and I said, "Okay, I'll take you." And sure enough, she had blue eyes. So God is having babies and bulls, and I'm too good to be a baby. So thank you very much for that blessing that she has blue eyes. I was watching the news, and the news they sunk so far as this immigration thing. And whereas that now the news is just how the black screams, you hear baby crying, crying. I said, "Mommy, Daddy, crying because we see the parents." My God, how far do we have to go to pull on the heartstrings of, I don't know, liberals or the heartstrings of people to get out the policies that we need to have implemented. But just to hear a baby crying, it's like, oh my God, who hasn't heard that? What are you supposed to do? Say, oh, wow, let's rush out, overthrow the country because we hear babies crying in detention centers. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. It's one of the things I like to do. When I was in school, I used to be on the debate team, and I'm able to look at both sides of an issue and argue, quite well, that position. And I think it's a talent, it's a gift to be open-minded enough to look at the other side of the issue and actually champion for it, somewhat like a defense lawyer. Although you're guilty, I got to tell them that you're not. So it's kind of like that. So it's a good moral, it's a good healthy mental exercise to be able to argue both sides of an issue regardless of what your beliefs are of that issue. So suppose right now the word is out in Mexico, cross the border in Mexico and bring your children. Just bring them. We don't care. Just bring your children. Just come across the border with children. Because you know what's going to happen. The United States is going to take the children, going to put them in detention centers, and you're going to become the focus of, the political, process or the political turmoil of what we're going through now. Just like they did with the Cuban boat crisis, back in the 80s, when Fidel Castro emptied his jails out and his mental hospital and put them all on the boat and said, "Go to America, get out of my country." And then we ended up with all, well, hey, we can't knock it because after all, they built up Florida and Miami with their drugs because a lot of the drugs that they brought in sold and cocaine cowboys paid for a lot of real estate building that made Miami what it is today. So you can say what you want about them being criminals or whatever. Some criminals, do bring a benefit to some of the places too. And we won't talk to some of the corporations because I truly believe that behind every million there is an illegal act. I'll say it again very slowly. Behind every millionaire or behind every $1 million there is an illegal act. Okay, so you can go I tell you what, let's look at JFK, John F. Kennedy. His father, bootlegs. That's a big major one. So look, I'm sure there are more. You can look at the Trumps. I'm sure, slumlord and cutting corners and all this stuff for him to get, his father to get as wealthy as did to start him off with a little $1 million loan, who seems to make it so petty. No, it's not the $1 million, it's what I did with it. Okay. I'll tell you what, why don't we start everybody off with $1 million and see what they can do with it. But anyway, getting back to the crisis of what's going on today. Why don't we do a preemption? Why don't we do something to kind of get ahead of this thing? Now you wonder, what can we do? Okay. Remember during World War I and World War II, we used to drop flyers from airport. Even in Vietnam, drop flyers to the villagers and let them know that, look, we're going to be bombing your area tomorrow. If you're not part of the problem, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So why don't we drop flyers, or especially in the sanctuary cities, and let them know to notify their friends? Because whenever they're coming across the border, they're coming across the border to meet somebody. They're coming across the border to hook up with some family. They're coming across the border to connect with someone, and let them know that, hey, coming across the border, you may jeopardize losing your children or someone else's children. Because, to my understanding, that they separate them to make sure that the guardian who is with that child is actually the guardian and a legal right to that child, because, and to make sure that person is not wanted or a criminal. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. I know back in the 80s and 70s, when the Puerto Ricans were coming across, it put a big strain on the government at that time, because Puerto Ricans were using 3 and 4 different names because they got 3 or 4 different last names. So when they apply for welfare, they may apply for welfare in 3 or 4 different names, and as a result, they got 3 and 4 different checks each month. So a lot of them, came up the American dream by performing that illegal act. So it's not uncommon, to not presume everybody is illegal, but to ensure that everyone entering this country is correct, and to remind you that this policy that's being implemented by President Trump, it was created by George Bush. This was a George Bush policy that was signed into law. And it just so happens that Donald Trump at this time wants to enforce the law. Is there any right time or wrong time to enforce the law, or to skirt around it, or to what have you? No, there's no right time. The law is the law. So the fact that you want to postpone, implementing it, well then okay, you postpone implementing it, but that doesn't change the law. And what was this phrase that he used today about with equal but separate? I mean, not separate but equal, or something like this, as he referred to. I don't know if it was China, or referred to something where equal but separate. Was separate but equal. I think that's what it was. It was a phrase coined during the civil rights as far as racism. We're separate but equal. And so Donald Trump is, so I guess you could say Donald Trump knows his history, especially when it comes to, separate, equal but separate, or separate but equal, however it goes. So anyway, I was compelled to at least put this down here to kind of tell you a little bit about my thoughts about what's happening in the news, especially on that issue when it comes to immigration. It's tough. I know it's extremely tough for a parent to lose their child. My God, I've lost mine, years ago for no other reason, just for the mentality of a woman, and it tears my heart every day. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But I think that's what the call is now. That maybe in Mexico, playing the devil's advocate, that now there is going to be a push for more to come across the border with children, so they can go through the process here and overwhelm the country and bamboozle, a lot of the people who are thinking that they're doing the right thing, asking the United States to, or demanding the United States not implement its laws. So I think that if you want to change it, you should start out at the law level. That's where it was implemented. That's where it should be changed. So that being said, this is Gerard, Energy Philippines Soul Magazine. I might say a couple more things, but right now, let me just stop with that.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know if you enjoyed it, but a little bit. If you agree, disagree, it don't matter. But those are my thoughts for this morning. It's a beautiful day here in Cebu, Philippines. Yesterday I did a video out right here, and they had like a typhoon, rain pouring down. I mean, it was like coming down crazy. I did a little short video, but for some reason along the way, I had anxiety. I had like an anxiety attack, and it was like I said, "What are you doing?" And I turned it off. So it was one of those things. Anyway, I'm looking here through the paper, which is one of my. I try to make it my daily constitution to know, whenever I travel, I always make it a point to read the local paper. It's good to read the local paper. Not only will you get familiar with the areas of where you're living at, or country, or what city, but it also gives you an idea of staying informed in what goes on in the world. I always thought it's a good idea to at least read the first 3 or 4 pages of the newspaper, if you can, every day, every few days, so this way you can be informed about what's going on. Let me just hit on a couple of things that hit me here in Cebu, in the Philippines. The president gives NALA 24 hours to solve a case. Now, the NA, let me see what it stands for. The Nimoy Aquino International Airport is investigating the recent TANIM-BALA, a bullet planting incident at the airport, the most trusted aide said. Now, what happened here in the Philippines is that a bullet was discovered at the airport in someone's luggage, someone's property, and it had passed through the security. So President Duterte has said, okay, give you 24 hours to find out what went wrong and who was at fault or who was sleeping on the job, but that person needs to be held responsible for and replaced. And that's the strong hand tactic of President Duterte in ensuring that his country is safe, his country is at the front of dealing with any issue that what may come up in the country for its citizens. And 24 hours is, when you put a deadline 24 hours to find out, there's no shuffling and jiving. It's what needs to be done. There's a couple other stories I wanted to point out to you here in Cebu. Let me see. Okay, stronger stronger Philippine military press aimed at sea dispute. Right now, the Philippines is kind of in a dispute with China over a certain part of its sea. The China is actually taking it or claiming it or saying that we want this, and the Filipino or Duterte said that look, it's they're not planning on exploring it or doing anything to harm the reefs or anything like this. It's more or less on paper, and he just said, he says, look, we cannot go to war with China. He says, but at the same time, China shouldn't just strong arm whatever it wants whenever it wants, in Asia, which some kind of get the impression that it is doing. In fact, there is one politician or someone high official says that if China is handed over these territories, that he will resign because he feels that the Philippines should take a lot stronger stand in defending it. But the Philippines has decided to increase its military presence, to ward off any other attempts by anybody else who would presume that the Philippines is weak in its military might and ability. So, but China is probably going to end up with it. You got to remember, China pumps a lot of money in the Philippines. In fact, when they had that conflict in Mindanao, China donated like so many billions of dollars to help rebuild that area of the Philippines, and also to aid in the Philippines, coffers, in lieu of saying anything else. But you also got to remember the largest quantities of shabu, which is methamphetamines, comes from China. I remember that there was they had this incident of these freighters. China has these lanes. Philippines has these lanes that are color lanes that make a decision on what ships comes through these lanes, and depending upon what color they are given, dictates the level of search that the ship would receive. Well, this one ship that they knew that was trafficking in a large quantity of shabu got redirected into one of the lanes that was less security, and therefore it was allowed to come into the country, and heads were rolled. In fact, President Duterte's son was also implemented in that that crisis, or in that situation. It was never proven, but his name got called because there was an informant who said that, like, oh yeah, I heard President Duterte's son was one of those who did it, so therefore his name got dragged into it. And just to keep face it, President Duterte's son, kind of stepped down and said, look, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need to be dragged into something. And he was also going through a lot with his daughter, which I definitely can relate to that. So President Duterte was having a lot of public, conflicts with his daughter, that he thought maybe it was time to spend more time with his family. So kudos to him. So anyway, in Mindanao, they had raided this one stronghold of terrorists, and on the papers had all these sacks of shabu and weapons and money and all this stuff on the table, and led me to believe that what's Allah got to do with this? This is supposed to be a holy war. This is supposed to be Muslims fighting against Christianity and what have you, but yet still you have all these drugs, which my train of thought is that they take these drugs and they bury them throughout the Philippines and put a GPS on it. At some later date, whenever it's time, they'll send an agent and GPS it, dig it up, and distribute it. That's my train of thought. Jerry. Whenever I find myself talking fast, I mention the name Jerry for Jerry Pittman. He was a close friend of Bonnie Hilton Sweeney, who was the founder of the Pre-Grammy Party. And we know if there's a heaven up above, Bonnie's teaching people how to network. We love you, Bonnie, and we know you love us more. He told me I talk too fast, so I should slow down. And I also should slow down, keeping in mind that I'm in the Philippines, and speaking slowly and clearly and articulately is very important so that they can understand, because a lot of my viewers are now Filipinos. So anyway, it made me wonder that what religion had to do with what was actually going on. And I got to hand it to President Duterte, because President Duterte opened the door to the terrorists and say, look, don't you think it's time for you to put your guns down? Isn't it time for you to come home to your families? Your cause has been going on for so long. What have you accomplished other than ravaging the country, with terrorist activities and all that stuff? And he even went a step further by saying, hey, look, if you qualify and you want to come join us in the police or in the military here, we'll welcome you. And that's big to me. To be willing to say that to your enemy. Put down your weapons and join us, and we'll make you a part of us. So kudos to him for wanting to do that. So anyway, China, he's decided to increase the military presence in the seas to ensure that no one is misunderstanding the Philippines' might and power. We have a sister, a religious sister, I guess. She was here in the Philippines, and her goal was to make sure that people eat or what have you, or she was here under a visa that allowed her to interact with the Filipino people, but she had got drawn into wanting to protest, to want to change some of the policies or what have you. Her name is Sister Fox or what have you, and they told her she had to leave the country. So she had a hearing and she lost, which is something that should happen more often. If you're here if you're in the United States and you're here for a certain reason and you decide to stray from the beaten path and want to cause dissident in the country, well, then yes, what is wrong? Excuse me, can you leave, please? Because we don't need to hear that. I mean, whether it's right or wrong or whatever, the sister, you're here to do God's work. You're not here to cause be a thorn in the government side due to your standing on issues that you we're not here to partake in. One thing I wanted to talk about is this story here. This story here says abortion is white glove equivalent to Nazi crime. This is the Pope. The Pope has said, they said it off the cuff, that today's abortion is equivalent to Nazi Germany's elimination of Jews and what have you. Every life is sacred, but to equate it to that of the Nazi war crimes is, I think it's very far. It's very colorful. Number one, and they call it a white glove, evacuation. That's equivalent to white glove. It says Pope Francis announced abortion on Saturday, that the white glove equivalent of the Nazi era genocide program, and urged families to accept children that God has given them. So the Pope saying something like that was kind of kind of wild. But this was interesting here. I don't know if you might hear this in the United States, but here you hear this. A 7-meter long python swallowed an Indonesian woman. It was this woman. She was she was tending her garden, her corn, and she was tending her garden, and she became missing. So the villagers, the family members were concerned, so they went out looking for her. It's on YouTube. Well, now it's on one of the news channels. Just Google, a woman gets swallowed by python in Indonesia, and it shows that when they were walking, they found her shoe. Then they said, well, where is she? This is her shoe. And they looked, and then they saw this huge python with this big bulge in it, and they actually cut the snake open, and you can see her, inside the python's body. Now, 12 drug suspects fell in CALOOCAN. Now, I want to talk about this story here because it was like maybe about 4 months ago or so. President Duterte and his police were up against human rights violation for killing drug dealers and drug users. Yes, that was sensationalized, and yes, in some cases it was questionable, and some cases, just like there was a reporter who was from the United States said something to President Duterte about his, and Duterte smacked him verbally by saying, well, what about your country? You are killing unarmed black people. You know what I'm saying? It's not a human rights violation what you're doing in the United States. How can you come to my country and talk about what it is that I'm doing to eliminate drug dealers and drug users? The scourge of any community, of any country, of anywhere. But what you're doing is okay. So anyway, the reason I brought this story up is because they just arrested a lot of people who, in 3 different raids, are using drugs, taking drugs and selling drugs, and not one shot was fired. So a lot has to be said that the policy that the police are using here in the Philippines to deal with a concerned era where they were killing drug users, drug pushers, and drug dens. So you got to take your hat up to the police now. Have shown a lot more restraint than what they had done in the past. I remember when I first moved to Las Vegas, man, there was a lot of police shootings of blacks. I remember one incident, this guy pulled into a gas station, and he backed up, and the cop pulled in behind him, and he opened his door, and when he went to get his wallet in the side of the door, the cop shot him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, wow, I'm just reaching for my wallet. Man, have we heard that before? I remember Amadou Diallo. Google it. You remember him? He was in New York where he was shot 41 times. For reaching for his wallet for some overzealous police tactical unit that was running around, searching and supposedly looking for bad guys. And I don't know if I mentioned once before, but I got to hand it to him because I guess the best way to kind of bring some stability back into the community is to remove police officers who are involved in narcotics. Because I think I mentioned once before in my other videos that is the level of where police officers get exposed to corruption, get exposed to the seedy side, get exposed to the underbelly of the city, and as a result, a lot of them often stray from their own personal morals or belief of looking out for the citizens, who later on become part of the problem. 8 drivers nabbed in CAVITE GP terminal drug bust. So these 8 drivers busted. Again, there's not a shot fired or someone being killed. So I guess things can change. Okay, so this is Gerard, editor-in-chief of Filipino Soul Magazine. Remember, dreams are nothing more than plans awaiting action. Never disrespect the elderly, always pull someone up. And sometimes you may be the only one to see a vision. And the best revenge in life is to live good. Let me give you a little bit of view. The best revenge in life is to live good. I hope you are too. And if you haven't got a dream, a goal, an idea, a train of thought, don't worry about it. Do what I do. Get as much as you can, as fast as you can, and go home. And remember, I will always love you more. I hope my finger wasn't in the way. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ollie Woodson, former lead singer of the Temptation One Song, treat her like a lady. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a good man, make him feel like a king. And I always love you more. And remember, this important thing: what you do for me, let it be for me. What you do for you, let it be for you. There's no distinction. Don't try to bamboozle me. Okay? I always love you more. Peace.